We'll call the meeting to order this evening, Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 6:01 p.m. Present tonight, we have Councilman Porter, Councilman Wilden, Councilman McComber, Councilman Podeska. Councilman Karn has been excused. This evening, I've asked Councilman Podeska to lead us in our invocation. Following that, Capri Pitcher will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this opportunity to meet together as a city. We're grateful for this beautiful city we have to live in and for the wonderful weather. We ask for Thy blessings to be upon those cities that are dealing with flooding or rising waters in preparation for that. And we also ask Thee to please be with us during this time, that we'll have a good meeting and be able to resolve the various issues that are on the agenda tonight. We also thank Thee for all the many volunteers throughout our city, and also we ask a blessing to be upon those men and women in uniform, as well as our first responders, to watch over and protect them and help them to feel our gratitude for their service. And this we say in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please stand. Repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the introduction of Miss Saratoga Springs royalty.
Mayor and Council, I know it feels like we just did this, but we have some changes in our court. Our original Miss Saratoga Springs had the opportunity to have her college entrance bumped up a little bit, so she would not be able to be here for our summer events, and so she wanted to make sure that our city was well represented and that these ladies had the full opportunity. So we appreciate what she has already done. Tess has already done some events for us this year, but now she has passed her crown. So our new Miss Saratoga, our queen, is Olivia Dial. And our first attendant, Anna Cloward. Second attendant, Avery Brown. And our junior miss and little miss were not able to attend last time, so we get to meet them today. So our junior miss is Kylie Priday, and our little miss is Macy Hannibal. So these are the young women who will be representing the city at our Splash Days events and in other cities' parades and all sorts of other things throughout the year. So thank you for the chance to introduce them.
So as a tradition that I have on the council, I've been on the council for many years, and Miss Saratoga Springs, if you come to the mic and let us know what your service project will be this year as you reign as Queen of Miss Saratoga Springs.
I'm focusing on mental health and suicide prevention, so I wanted to do a city event that helps supports that and just brings awareness to tips and resources that people can use that are struggling with it.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. Please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. If you're here for the public hearings on the agenda, resolution approving fiscal year 2023 budget, a resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 tentative budget, or on pressurized irrigation as stated on the agenda. Please hold your comments for those. Is anybody here for public input? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public input. Any reports from the council? Councilman McComber?
I just have a question, and I'd like to just have it on the record and ask a question of staff. I'm a little bit concerned with what's been going on Redwood Road with the traffic. It, you know, it we haven't had like 5,000 homes open in the last month, but it feels like we have 5,000 more cars on the road. And I actually went and parked at the new Holiday, and that's where I believe the bottleneck is. I believe Pony Express in Redwood needs to be really evaluated. What's happening is because I think with the extra left-hand turns, because it's a full interchange now, they are shortening the southbound Redwood Road extensively to allow the left-hand turn onto Pony Express, and then they're allowing twice as many cars to come off of Pony Express onto Redwood Road going northbound as they're allowing to go south. So then it's backing up all the way past Chevron, even up to Harvest Hills at peak time. It's unacceptable that residents have to wait through 6 green lights to get through at Pony Express when the residents coming out of Eagle Mountain don't have to wait but 1. They get it every time. They clear the entire lane every time. So I think that we should at least have it be a little fair where maybe half the cars from Pony Express, and they might have to wait through 2 cycles, an extra minute and a half, versus the extra 20 minutes it's taking to get through Pony Express. So I really would like UDOT not to just get on their cameras and look from a distance. I would like them to actually come out here, sit there like I did, and really look at it, because it is unacceptable to have residents waiting. There was one car I actually saw in the distance because he had a flag, and it took him 9.5 minutes to get from about Costa Vida through Pony Express. That's unacceptable. So I'd really like them to look into that and make sure that it's fair.
You mean, make sure north-south is getting priority?
Well, make sure that it's getting more priority than it is now, because Pony Express is clearing 100%. There's not one, in fact, it's green and there's no cars coming. They're all done, and it's still green. And then when it goes to Redwood Road, they allow 6 cars. That's unacceptable, 6 cars on Redwood Road, especially until we can get the Foothill Mountain View corridor opened. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the council? Okay, Mark?
And Michael, thank you for the comment. Jeremy's probably emailing them as you speak, and so UDOT will have this hot little hands here any minute. We appreciate your time. I wanted to apologize. At the retreat, the council mentioned that Councilmember Karn was not going to be here, so we need to postpone the work session until he's back in town, if you're okay with that. And we'll come ready and anxious to talk sign code at that point. So other than that, Jeremy, could you give the council just a quick announcement on the grant?
Mayor and council, I sent you all an email today, but in case you didn't have time to read it, we did a presentation last week with the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant Program at the Capitol, and received notification yesterday that we were awarded the $750,000 for our North Marina grant, matching a couple other grants we've received. So continue to get some momentum behind that project and funding, and it's pretty exciting. So that will, although we still need a lot more money, this will definitely help fast track getting phase 1 open to the public.
And we're going to have water in Utah Lake this year. So.
It's, yeah, if you've seen any of the mountain runoff, it has increased significantly this week.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Anything else, Mark?
Not at this time, Mayor Council.
Okay, so we will postpone the work session item tonight. Public hearings. First public hearing tonight is resolution approving fiscal year 2022-2023 budget amendments.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is the 5th budget amendment for this year. It mostly addresses the new City Hall library and then also additional purchases of water rights at this time. Any questions for staff?
Okay, I will open up the public input. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Please avoid repetitive comments. Is anybody here for public hearing item number 1? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion from the council.
I move that we approve resolution approving the fiscal year 2022-23 budget amendments, resolution R 23-20 dated today.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman McComber, second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have public hearing item number 2, the resolution approving fiscal year 2023-2024 tentative budget.
Okay. So we've been presenting in different parts of the budget in the last few meetings. A couple of changes we have made to recommend to council at this time is we've added a vehicle to the battalion chief request that was omitted in their prior request. And then also in water fund, we have requested more monies for secondary and culinary meters at this time as well for next year. Just anticipating a couple of big purchases there. Otherwise, there are no changes to what we presented in the past few council meetings. Any questions for staff at this time?
Councilman McComber?
The extra meters is just we're anticipating more houses going in or more broken ones?
It's mostly from the new growth. And so we just keep outperforming, and we know that development has slowed, but we're also facing a year lead time. The meters that we're ordering now, we won't get until next January. And so it's long lag time at the supply. Since the whole state is now installing secondary meters, there's now quite a lengthy lead time. So we're still ordering, knowing that, you know.
We're staying ahead of the curve.
If we can have some on the shelf, then at least
love
we're
it.
not having to go back and reinstall ERTs later.
Great. I think that sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect.
I just, you touched on this, there's a large number of negative growth especially in the development area. I just want to get it on the record that we are not triggering any of our KRIs yet. Even though we are, somebody who's looking at this as a member of the public might see a lot of red ink. I just want you to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it's an interesting conundrum we find ourselves in because, we as a city have a certain number of days to perform inspections, to review plans. This year at the legislature, the law changed to where now we have to get plats and plans reviewed in a shorter time period. And so we're not able to necessarily downsize our staff because we have to have an on-demand service. And we've seen where, we can see these cycles where it might slow for a bit, and then all of a sudden, we're right back into hypergrowth. We understand that things are slowing down here a little bit, but if you recall, back in 2010, we saw a slowdown, but then it picked right back up again, and then we've had, a 12-year run that vastly exceeded everyone's expectations. And so right now, we have our staff busy. We're still using them. We have lots of things that we need to keep working on. And, this is one of those things that from a cyclical nature, we've got to keep up with the projects that we're working on. We are closely monitoring that. We did amend our budget last year. So we did a budget amendment earlier last fall where we reduced those revenues amounts. We had some offsetting revenue in sales tax, but fundamentally, we are still fiscally sound, and we believe that we're sized appropriately. If in the future this trend, say, extends for multiple years or for a much longer period than anticipated, then we'll be looking at other measures that we need to employ.
Thank you.
May I go?
Yes.
No, it's nice, even though we have a projected increase in expenses just because of inflation, et cetera, we're able to absorb that because we've always been conservative in our revenue budgeting as well. We see that it goes down a little bit on our forecast, which is reflective of the planning decrease, but at the same time, because we've been fiscally conservative and along with our forecast on the revenue, we're doing well. My guess is we're getting probably closer and closer to actual as we fine tune the revenue over time.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And again, we still are anticipating funding our capital replacement and all of those things. So it's not like we're skimping on any particular area. We're just getting much leaner. And the end of year transfers that we've been able to use for kind of the extra projects and stuff, we just see that balance, minimizing, but still anticipate a positive in that regard, but not nearly what we've done in years past.
Well, in our economic outlook from a sales tax perspective, because of all of the new businesses that have come definitely it hasn't hurt us at all. And appreciate Saratoga Springs residents and other neighboring cities who come and shop in Saratoga Springs. So thank you.
You know, and I think a benefit of that, there's always those throughout the cities, why do we want more commercial development, et cetera? And this is reflective why, as we've been able to keep property tax stable or even decreased as a rate, you know, as a percentage over time, because there's different businesses that's come in that's significantly contributed and had us be able to rely more on that. And it's not, you know, studies have been done by the state, our type of businesses, it's not like just entertainment. It's pretty staple products, and it's demonstrated to be stable in economic downturns even, so. Anyway,
I
I've
agree.
pontificated enough.
Thank you for your pontification. This is a public hearing, so we will open it up for anybody who has comments on this. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please please limit it to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for the resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve public hearing item 2 as stated on the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have public hearing updates as stated on the agenda to all the IFFPs. Things.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Mayor and council, we just have some very minor massages, updates, because we just recently saw these recently, so drinking water, secondary sewer. So we just saw some opportunities to refine some numbers and thought, why not do an update? So.
Again, if you recall in past times when we've updated our impact fee facilities plan, it seems like we're always adopting development agreements and approving reimbursement agreements with other developers and things of that nature. So us updating these fees is a reflection of us keeping current with the amended plans because infrastructure's been built by developers. And per the council's policy, it is our goal to have new growth pay for new growth so that we're not subsidizing development here in the community using city resources. And so again, you know, we have another reimbursement agreement on tonight's agenda. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to capture in these updates frequently and making sure that we're constantly, you know, charging the appropriate amount going forward. And these studies sustained the proposed new fees for this.
And we don't make a profit off of these areas. I'd always like to make sure that that is on the record, that these pay for themselves.
Okay, any other comments from the council? This is a public hearing. Is anybody here to speak on the public hearing for item 3? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move to approve public hearing item number 3 dated today.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Podeska, a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion on the motion? Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion on the consent items.
So made.
I have a first from Councilman McComber,
Second.
second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion?
Could we add any findings and conditions throughout there? I don't know if there was any, but
I don't believe there were, but if there were, include staff findings and conditions.
Amended second.
Have amended first and second. Any further comments?
Just my usual, it's not Foothill Boulevard.
Okay.
It is Mountain View Parkway.
I said both today for you.
Yes.
Actually, I'm sorry, I do have one request on the motion, if you don't mind. We have one contractor who bid on the asphalt project that may have been unable to meet spec. Can we make in the motion authorization to the city manager or something to award to the second lowest bidder if the first bidder on that project is unable to meet the terms and conditions of the bidding documents?
Kevin, is that allowed?
So right now, the resolution has a specific contractor, but I just found out that we have some uncertainty that he'll be able to meet the
Are
requirements.
they doing the entire project or just a portion?
Just a portion, just the,
But it probably exceeds Mark's
Right.
purchase.
or we could bring it back, I guess.
Or you could table that, Adam.
If, well,
Then we have to table all the other work, right?
I wouldn't say to table it because they may be able to meet it, but we're having some concerns.
We'll leave the motion as is, and if it has to be done.
If I have to bring back a different award or contract, I'll just bring that back as is.
And if we have to do a Zoom meeting, I'm willing to participate.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay,
I didn't have to answer.
We
got out of this.
Because it didn't feel right.
I think when it comes to large purchases like this, you have to be really specific if you delegate your authority to staff. So if you were to do it in the future, you'd have to be extremely specific and articulate some conditions for that delegation.
okay.
Motion stands.
Yep, motion stands. I have first, second. Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Tedesca?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. On to the business items. Item 1, consideration for adoption of a resolution for the city of Saratoga Springs declaring its intention to reimburse itself for expenditures incurred in connection with financing City Hall.
Mayor and council, this is your pretty typical reimbursement resolution, which allows us to recoup any costs that we expend between now and if we do end up issuing bonds, we could recoup those costs. Now, in the resolution, it said 40, and it needs to only say 4 million, not the 40. So I apologize. I would ask for that clarification when you make your motion. But again, this is pretty standard. If we choose not to bid the project, then we would certainly not reimburse ourselves because we wouldn't be doing that. But as it currently stands, that's what this would essentially do.
Okay. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve business item 1 with a $4 million cap.
As opposed, yes, thank you.
As proposed.
Have a first from Councilman McComber.
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Tedesca?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business item 2, the Crossing Village Plan 3A Major Amendment.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is site-specific. It's over at the crossing, but this will be for the Habit Burger. There are other businesses in the crossing that have had additional signage requests in their village plan amendments that they've made. This one, they're asking for 3 curbside pickup signs and 1 drive-through preview board. I showed the faded out one is what currently their drive-through menu board is. And then to scale, the drive-through preview board they're asking for, it's 13 square feet, so it's roughly a third less, or a third of the entire drive-through menu sign. Currently, our code allows 10 square feet additional with the drive-through menu board per lane, which they haven't used that at all.
But this exceeds that.
By 3 feet.
Yeah. By code, it exceeds it. And then we've gone through and I did that study where I was checking with other cities and we couldn't find any other city that had any criteria on curbside pickup signs. And so they're asking permission, which is great. I put in here example of the ADA parking signs, 2 square feet. The one they're proposing for the curbside pickup signs, it's 2.2 square feet. It would be shorter than what the ADA parking signs are with their.
How many of these are they asking for?
Just 3.
And are those, does that make them not meet their parking requirement now?
No, they would still have sufficient parking.
If you take those 3 out, they still have sufficient parking to meet?
Yes.
Mayor and council, I did talk to Boyer specifically about this because I wanted to make sure I'm comfortable with the application, that they were okay with this amendment when I spoke with them.
I just wanted to make it clear that to residents that you can park in a curbside parking, even if it says only 20 minutes, that they have no right to regulate that. It's a parking spot, anybody can use it. I'm just tired, 3 is reasonable, which I think is good. I'm just frustrated with the 15 next door, Chili's.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions on that, or I have the motion, or the motions?
I personally would want them to stay within code. So they need to stay within allows 10 square feet extra, so.
I will entertain a motion then.
I move that we approve the Crossings Village Plan 3A Major Amendment 2 with all staff finding conditions, with the condition that the menu sign meets current code.
I have a first from Councilman McComber.
I'll second, but I have some questions.
Okay. I have a second from Councilman Wilden. Some discussion?
Yeah, so we're talking about 13.3 feet versus 10 feet is what they'd be over?
Yes,
I mean, that's the wrong, oh, there it is.
13.4.
I mean, I guess if the.
It's square feet, though, that's this much.
What?
That's this much. If you do 3 square feet, it's that much bigger, so.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like, I don't know if the applicant's here. Can they make it work in 10 feet? Oh, you're right there, sorry.
I believe we can, yes.
Okay, I mean, if they can get it in that space, I would say at this time.
And the extra drive-through signs meet code? Or they exceed code? All the extra drive-through signs?
That curbside pickup signs?
No, the drive-through signs. I thought you just said there
Oh, the
were.
rest of their signs all meet code.
Oh, okay. Because they do have drive-through and
The internal directional signs and all that.
those are all within code?
Those have all been passed previously.
Okay.
Motion stands.
I have a first and a second. Any other discussion? Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Tedesca?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Still Ridge, Plaza Lot 4.
Okay. Steel Ridge Plaza Lot 4. This is the Tommy's Car Wash site plan. It's located in the Regional Commercial Zone, 309 East Crossroads Boulevard. Applicant is Evan Wagner, representing Sirac Capital. The Planning Commission did look at this item. They made a positive recommendation at the April 13th Planning Commission meeting. This is located on Crossroads Boulevard. It's kind of right on that development on the south side of the road as you're coming across the river there into the city. It is located in the Gateway Overlay Zone, which you can see indicated on this map by the hash mark. However, this application was submitted prior to adopting the Gateway Overlay Ordinance. And so that ordinance would not apply to this application.
So I have a quick question.
Yes, Councilman McComber?
So it technically did not. We gave it a waiver because we had a pending ordinance and we chose as a council to allow them to supersede that because they spent $1 million on the site design. I would hope that their sign code, does it meet the gateway overlay
The sign code does meet, yes.
with their current application? Does it
What
meet?
they've submitted, so I'll get to the sign stuff in just a second, but so the building signs that they're showing on the building do meet the code. They showed a large pedestal sign that did not meet our code. One of our red lines was that they could not do that sign, and that's in the conditions in the motion. So that plus the other issue that they had with their signs is there is a portion of their sign that has a white illuminated, so it's illuminated background with white. They have to change that. So that is also a condition in the motion.
Okay. Then that brings them into the gateway overlay compliance as well then, for sign.
For signage, I'm not positive on that. Maybe Sarah could comment on that. I'm not.
Because the whole point of having a gateway overlay and having a pending ordinance was that we would have a decent-looking entrance to our city, and that included more restrictive sign code. We gave them the building because they spent $1 million, but I would hope that they would meet us halfway and meet the sign code with the gateway overlay.
Now, let us evaluate that.
Okay, so for me, I have no problem, I would have no problem approving, but if I can get the council support, I am one of 4 today, for the signage, to have that come back to us to make sure that it meets And I would hope that they would be willing because it was a sticky situation, and I felt that the council was able to meet them halfway, and more than halfway. We let them go be there because of their investment they had made in the commitment they'd gotten from the developer.
So would you make that motion of approval conditioned upon them meeting the sign code?
Meeting the gateway overlay sign code.
Not in the condition.
That's what I would like.
Yeah, so.
I think that's smart, because otherwise we've got one business that doesn't fit into the rest of the overlay.
Okay, so if you made that a part of your motion, then we don't need to bring it back?
Yeah.
Unless they're not meeting that sign code? Correct.
And then they want to challenge it. Yeah, okay.
Any other discussion from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve business item 3, Steel Ridge Plaza, Lot 4, Tommy's Car Wash, Saratoga Springs Site Plan, Evan Wagner applicant, with all staff findings and conditions, with an additional condition that their signage meets the gateway overlay as approved by the city council. Thanks.
I have a first from Councilman McComber.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Wilden? Oh,
Just going to clarify that the gateway overlay requires uniformity with the other signs, so we can check on that.
Thank you.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We have the Talus Ridge Plat I Interior Accessory Dwelling Unit.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. So this is for the IADU map amendment for Talus Ridge Plat I, and it is located off Pinnacle Lane, just west of Foothill and north of Fairfield. And the red is the entire Talus Ridge subdivision, and then the yellow is Plat I. So it is 2 lots. And the Planning Commission did make a unanimous recommendation of approval on April 13th. And it does meet off-street parking and all the other requirements. So any questions on that?
Councilman Wilden?
Not necessarily questions, but, we did, as a council, create a policy, and they did follow the existing policy. I don't think our intent was to say, okay, plats with 2 homes, because, again, I'm okay with this because they met the policy. But what this will become is potentially administrative nightmare for the city, and so I'd like us after this to go back and revisit that. I think we went from a huge neighborhood where like this is just too big, and there was a highway, not highway, but like big road running down the middle, and we said, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Let's go with plats, and now we have 2 homes. Great for them. They met the policy, but this won't be sustainable from an administration standpoint.
I agree.
I think we've already placed a huge burden on non-HOA developments. It's a higher burden than the HOA developments face to amend the map. And so I understand where you're coming from, and I agree 2 homes as an edge case is gonna be difficult to administer. I hope that we don't further ratchet down people's ability to use their property the way they see fit just because of administrative concerns. So we can have that discussion when we bring it back to talk about it.
And I don't know what the right answer. I think the idea around plat, I would say plat or surrounding plats if it doesn't have at least 50 homes or something. I don't know, whatever staff recommends.
We need a clause because this is unacceptable, and I get your argument. You live in this neighborhood, and I get it, but at the same time, the neighbors maybe don't want IADUs. So where are their rights? Like, they moved in this neighborhood expecting a single-family neighborhood. So it goes lots of directions. So you can make an argument that an individual can do what they want with their house, but we also don't let them have 2 feet of grass weeds in their front yard. We don't allow other things that become disenfranchisement to their neighbors. And so, I'm surprised that this was able to meet code, so our code is flawed. I would agree.
So is that two council members saying, bring it back for discussion?
Yes, please.
Yes, it is. 4.
Because can't have
But I don't know, Karn's not here, so you don't have 4. But
Oh, no, you have 4.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's,
I'm not, I like the policy the way it is, but
he likes the policy that we can have 2 lot plots.
So to capture Councilmember Porter's concerns, you would want it to be more consistent, a more consistent standard with what HOAs have to meet.
if we could lessen the burden on non-HOA developments and somehow increase the number, I would be okay with that. Right now, we have to reach a much higher burden than any HOA development does.
So would the rest of the council be interested in us looking at that?
I think so, but I think to Councilman Porter's comment, the much higher burden, it's also the other way to it. It's a much higher burden to protect the property rights of single-family homes. If people buy to turn it into a duplex to afford it, maybe they should buy into a duplex area. I know it's IADU, but it's a duplex.
So is the council okay if we pursue both thoughts when we bring it back, and then you guys can discuss it at that time?
That's fine.
Correct.
Yep. But back to this.
6 months.
Based on some recent legislative changes at the state, we will be bringing some additional IADU topics to you for review to meet some recent changes in state legislature. And I do want to add that it's very rare that we have a 2-lot plat. That doesn't address your concern, but it is rare. In this particular situation, they had to meet, those 2 lots were originally a temporary turnaround, and so they weren't included in the initial plat, and then they came back and when they met their turnaround standards, they platted those 2 lots. It is very rare that we see this. However, we do want to address your concerns.
But to that point, Sarah, the next block up has a 6-lot subdivision. And so I think what the council's
Right.
kind of alluding to is that's probably too small of a number.
Patchwork quilt across the city to administer. I'm willing to admit to that.
If I may, I'll just add, one of the things that we're proposing in the code that is coming forward is that we have a limitation as per street, how many homes or percentage of homes on a street. So that may be one way that we can limit that as well.
Is that permissible within the state code?
We'll let you know when we bring it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Mayor and
Hey,
council,
I'm all for it if
we've diverged from the main
Yeah.
topic, which is your decision to approve or not approve this particular request.
That's true. I will move that we approve business item 4 as stated on the agenda.
First from Councilman Porter,
I'll second.
Staff findings.
second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Porter,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Comber.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
A reluctant aye.
Reluctant ayes. Okay, Code Amendment Title 190202, and a lot of 19s.
Okay, so this item is a follow-up. Back in November, the City Council adopted Resolution Number R22-70. That was a pending ordinance, which gave us some time, 6-month window to create a mixed waterfront ordinance. That's what we're coming back with you tonight, is the mixed waterfront ordinance. That resolution that we adopted does expire on May 14th, so we're kind of right towards the end of that window, but we do have that ordinance here for you tonight. So the sections that are going to be amended is 19.02, 19.04, and 19.16. 19.02 is the definitions. We've added a new definition there, basically just saying what a unified waterfront theme is. We want to define a certain style and theme for the area because it is against the lake waterfront as well as the river waterfront. So Jordan River and Utah Lake are, it's important that for us that the area has kind of a waterfront theme going for it. We also, so the ordinance has several sections here. We have definitions, we have a purpose and intent. And then we have some sections that talk about density, open space, and trails and waterfront requirements. The idea behind this zone is we want to embrace the waterfront. So all of the code that we put together creates access and trails that flow to the waterfront. So there would be trails that run through the developments. providing public access to the waterfronts, whether that be the Jordan River Trail or the Jordan River or the Utah Lake. It does address also architectural things, features. So balconies is one of the things that's outlined in the code, is a feature that we would like to have kind of facing the waterfronts. This code does reference a design standard, which is a separate document. We're in the process of drafting that document right now. We've actually are working with an architectural firm to draft that document, and it should be ready probably in a month or two, depending on how fast we can work with them on that. But that would specifically, call out things like, what kind of architecture you can have, how many stories, how do you do windows, the walls, and all of that kind of stuff. We can go and I can go
Real quick on that, because we don't have that.
Yes.
Is there something in here that allows, if somebody comes in, how do they get their plan in and follow this new code amendment, but then not have the design standards?
Well, they have to meet the current code.
One of the things.
Yeah.
We did have an applicant come in last year, and because they were asking for a rezone, we were able to ask for a development agreement, and we're working through design standards with them through the development agreement process, so that is still a tool we can.
So you'll use the development agreement until potentially this standard can be in place, and then still probably use a development agreement, but not have to have so much design standards in the development agreement.
Right,
So you're using that as an interim tool?
right.
Okay.
And just to be clear, there's probably going to be other things that are going to need to be in that development agreement, because we can't just have development agreements for architectural elements. So we anticipate that there's probably other things that are going to require development.
Traffic patterns, things.
There's probably all kinds of, issues, and some of the plans that we've seen would require quite a bit of issues to be resolved in order to be compliant with code. So again, we can't, we want to follow the state law as it was modified this year relative to that.
And also those properties, so there's just one that has a rezone, and then a condition, last year it was approved with a condition that the zoning isn't final until they finalize the development agreement. They have not yet finalized the development agreement, as they're still working on their design standards. And any other property that comes in to request this would be under a rezone. We don't have any current zones aside from the one I just mentioned, so we can use the development agreement as a tool.
And when does the new state laws go into effect? July 1st?
Sometimes it depends on what the bill says, effective date is.
That particular one is tomorrow, but it's not so much that you can't do it, you just have to place the developer on notice.
Okay.
Because they're asking for a rezone, I think we're okay.
We just have to make sure it's well communicated and they know that that's why. Okay, thank you.
You have to provide them notice, basically.
Just one more thing, we do have another tool as well, which is here on the screen, the neighborhood plan. So we do require a neighborhood plan, and part of the neighborhood plan is architectural stuff. So that's also another tool that we have in our bag in the interim. So I can go through, there's quite a few changes here. I could go through each one of these if you'd like. But I think I've covered in a nutshell what we're looking at.
The highlights is good for me. Okay.
I just thank you for the time and work you put in on this. I think it's great that we are updating this because to date, I can only think of one mixed waterfront development that has really caught the vision of what this zone is supposed to be, and they're located on the river, not on the lake. So
That's why we switched to waterfront.
Right. I mean, which I think is great, but the development community just really seems to not understand the opportunity that they have, and seems to want to continue to see lakeside property as the same gray box that they've been building for the last 50 years. And I'm glad that we're giving them more guidance through this new code to get them to hopefully catch the vision of what's a possibility in our city with the great amenity that the lake is, and how we've embraced the lake, and that they should do so as well. So thank you for all the hard work, planning staff on getting this.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 5 as stated on the agenda.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
Second.
second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? McComber,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 6, Code Amendment to Title 19.
Did I miss that? I might have missed some findings in my motion, Mayor. I'm looking at the staff report.
Oh,
Just clarification for the minutes, findings were intended as part of that motion.
Intended second.
Okay, so for the code amendment, this is to make more clarification on short-term rental, as well as add a definition for long-term rental, clarify the bed and breakfast and dwelling, as well as to clarify prohibited uses for home occupations. And so the main thing that was added was that for short-term rental, that it's for 29 consecutive calendar days or less. Long-term rental is 30 or more. And we also added to our the permitted uses table, showing that short-term rental is not allowed in any zone in the city, and then showing where long-term rental is permitted. And then for home occupation, there were some uses that were in the table that were saying that certain uses are not permitted if it's in the office, warehouse, or industrial zone, or prohibited. And then, but heavy commercial, we noticed that there were some that have had heavy commercial allowed, so it kind of made a loophole. So we're making it where certain more construction and different things as home occupations will not be allowed. So that's why we added the heavy commercial zone to the prohibited uses to fix that loophole.
Interestingly enough, remember several years ago, we had people trying to do man caves in industrial zones, things like that. So this would also, limit that as well, from those becoming, bed and breakfasts and things like that in like storage lockers and things of that nature. So just as an aside, just wanted to throw that back out there.
Okay.
Is there a market for that?
10,000 square foot.
Apparently there is.
pancake.
How much money we're losing? I was kidding.
Anyway.
Yep, and so, so that's mainly the gist of it. So if there's any comments or questions.
I do want to add, the Planning Commission in their motion recommended that we exclude hotels from the definition of short-term rental. There was an applicant with a potential hotel, but also residential units, and they said that they perhaps wanted to use some of their short-term rent, or some of their units as flex spaces, and they made that request, and then the Planning Commission excluded hotels from short-term rental, so that's possibly something to discuss if we want to, if the council also wants to consider adding the addition of excluding hotels from short-term rentals.
So staff had originally recommended to include hotels that they weren't allowed to do short-term rental.
We have a separate definition for hotels, and we're not necessarily seeing that it should be part of the short-term rental discussion. We're seeing them as separate items.
So why did the planning commission feel that they had to add that in if it's already covered in the hotel section?
They were supporting the applicant's request. So the applicant said that they have some units that they might, that may be run by their hotel and may be short-term rentals. So it got a little bit convoluted.
It's convoluted and it's beyond the scope of the planning commission.
Yeah, it got convoluted for sure. So their motion included, at the very end of the short-term rental definition, excluding hotels. And I'm not sure if that's the direction we want to go or not.
Well, and I see that in the current definition on this, that's been updated based on that. So in 279,
short-term rental, it says means of property excluding hotels.
Oh, okay.
Is that what we're talking
includes
about?
The planning commission, yeah. So the excluding hotels was added by the planning commission.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable and just let's remind them that they can put that as in their
Right, it's a
points,
recommendation.
but they shouldn't change.
Yeah.
They shouldn't change what staff is presenting because they're not the professionals, they're an oversight recommending body, but they could in their motion say, we would like the city council to consider, but they actually went in and changed it, and that's a little bit concerning, so. So I personally would think that I would rather go with what staff recommended and staff's point, and so removing the hotel clause, because it keeps it clean and it also becomes a little redundant and becomes confusing, I think.
I think there was concern expressed previously that short-term rentals should be something different than hotels, just for the tax purposes and regulation purposes. And this doesn't mean that hotels cannot have short stays or something like that, because hotel is a different definition.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm struggling to understand what
We just take it
hotel, yeah.
We'll just
What
take-
hotel doesn't do short-term rentals, that's pretty much what they do.
That's why it makes it confusing, so we need to remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my question is, are we addressing in here the hotel and Airbnb and bed and breakfast transient tax?
That's going to have to be under a separate section of code, adding that fee, adding the transient room tax.
And are we working on that?
We certainly will get that prioritized.
If I can get another nod or.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to get that in place. We have a lot of Airbnbs happening especially now that we have IADUs. They're just Airbnb in their basement. And we also have a potential hotel coming soon. I would like to get ahead of that so that we're not looking opportunistic.
So can I just comment really quickly on that discussion about the hotel?
Sure.
Okay. When it comes to definitions, it's really good to have them be as clean as possible. If you mean a short-term rental, that's what it is. If you mean a hotel, that's what it is, because applicants will come in and they'll try to find loopholes and they'll say, no, this isn't a hotel, this is a short-term rental. And then all of a sudden you've got a hotel in a zone that you don't want it. So I'm not sure that hurts that definition having there, because it makes it really clear, no, this is a hotel, this is a short-term rental. But that being said, you'd have to be comfortable with the current definition of hotel. And so I thought I might read that. I've got it pulled up in the code. A hotel means a building containing guest rooms with only interior access in which lodging is provided for compensation.
I don't have a
Pretty-
vote, but I feel
pretty
like we're writing code on the fly. I'd rather have this sorted out and come back clean for approval.
But we oftentimes do that in definitions, just to be clear. No, if you want to go under the hotel definition, you got to go there. And we don't want them using the short-term rental definition. So I wasn't there for the planning commission discussion. I don't understand the basis for their recommendation. But that is something that you commonly see in definitions.
I just don't like it.
Okay.
What the mayor is basically saying, let's not write code here. I don't like the fact that they were changing it at the planning commission at all, period, let alone on the fly. So I think that I would agree with the mayor, and I'm happy to entertain a motion on this, to table this to our next meeting where we can make sure this is cleaned up. You can have Kevin's arguments, and then staff. If staff comes forward and says they want it this way, then I'm okay with it. I'm not comfortable with it coming with changes on the fly because an applicant put pressure on the planning commission.
So the
Anybody?
applicant's intent is that they be allowed to do short-term rentals in their hotel. And the applicant is the one that has a hotel on the bottom and rental units above. So it really muddied the conversation. Staff's preference is that the definitions be separate.
So they want to have a hotel and then Airbnb.
Yeah, they have like a split model. It's the one over there.
It's more condos and townhomes.
Oh, okay.
Where they're going to want them to be able to do
Airbnb.
Airbnbs, because, some of them would be hotel rooms and some of them would be,
It's those-
long-term rentals.
Boutique hotels
Yeah.
model.
Gotcha.
So, you entertain a motion?
Yeah.
I move that we postpone Code Amendment Title 19, basically item 6, for in the next city council meeting, and to get this clarified, so that coming forward, the recommendation is this is what staff recommends. And then we can have a discussion about that and decide how we want to vote accordingly.
I have a first from Councilman Comber,
I'll second.
second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion?
I would just say, I'm going to vote aye, but I don't think it really matters one way or another. Like, I think it's just duplicative. If it's in there, it clarifies. If we remove it, whatever. But I'm supportive of waiting in case there is some unintended consequence.
Staff would like time to review that in terms of the transient tax that we just discussed, and if that has an impact on, whether that's included or not included. So we would.
Short-term rentals wouldn't be.
So, right, so that was the
Airbnb lease.
concern.
No, short-term rentals different than Airbnb.
Okay. I have a motion,
So-
first and second.
I think what Sarah's suggesting is we may not have that for next, are you okay? if it's-
That's whatever.
For a future, I'll amend my motion for a future city council meeting.
Amended second.
Okay.
Can I ask, is there anything coming in that we need to deal with this now?
Is it pending?
This is,
This would qualify under the pending ordinance
This
doctrine
would,
currently.
okay.
Well, no, I mean, my question is there something
Are we
coming
holding
in
something
now? No, not are we holding something up. Is there something that we're not particularly interested in that would be a super bad fit for the city that we're trying to get this in tonight?
No.
Okay.
The River's Edge development, the ones with the hotel on the bottom and then rental units above, they were the ones who brought that up, and their concern was that that would somehow prevent them from doing short-term rentals above the hotel portion. So I feel like we need further discussion. I wasn't sure how that interplayed with transient tax, and so that was my concern on the verbiage excluding hotels being added to that definition.
Okay. Perfect. I have first and second, Councilman Porter.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Comber.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have closed session tonight? I know we've got the other meeting, but.
Mayor, if we could, there is one thing that I forgot to bring up during staff reports, and I apologize. I received a call from Central Utah, and they notified us that they are extending their grant program and they specifically wanted to point it out for us. Their water conservation grants, which we are not currently eligible for, part of the reason is we don't,
This is the Park Strip grant.
this is the Park Strip
The
grant.
one I get the email every
Right.
day and a half. Yeah.
Part of the challenge is that we don't require landscape plans, we don't review landscape plans for single homes and things of that nature. Central Utah made it very clear that they've changed their grant program so that they would offer us a 3-year funding cycle for staff if we were to implement a code change that required landscape plans and review of those landscape plans to ensure compliance. And so, again, I just wanted to notify you that they've made that. I'm not asking for any direction tonight, but I did want to go on record and let you be aware that,
You have to be in
again,
favor because it gives residents.
one of the concerns that we raised was this is way beyond what we currently regulate. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that so that you had that information.
When they say 3-year cycle for staff, could staff be consulting, like a consulting firm, outsourced?
Probably, in theory. However, once the funding cycle, once the grant funding goes away, it's like some of the other grants, we'd be required to keep staffed going forward for future compliance.
No.
Or could we end the program? Would it have a clause that we were required to keep it going?
Well, if we get into the program, then we're going to have to amend our standards to meet those other standards as well. So it would, and we do most of it. Right now, the 3 hangups are no more than 35% turf in the front yards. That's, the other one would be that we would not be allowed to allow turf in side yards. And then this would also prohibit us from having any turf in our park strips. per the conservation standards. So those are the three main issues that I see that conflict with our code. That and the fact that we don't require parks, or, we don't require landscaping plans to come to the city to get approved. We don't do enforcement on those things. We only enforce if they don't have a yard in within 1 year of occupancy. And so, again, it's definitely changing the nature of us and forcing us to be far more regulatory than we currently are. So, again, I bring that to your attention for education purposes. Apologize, I missed that under the staff report portion, but wanted to
I'll
pass it
just
along.
say, it feels like the state wants us to let the developers do whatever they want and also be an HOA at the same time. So state can't have it both ways.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mark.
That was well said.
No need for closed session at this time,
Okay,
Mayor.
so we'll pause the city council meeting for a moment. We will go into the Saratoga Springs Community Development Renewal Agency meeting.
Actually, Mayor, I believe you can close
Close
the
it?
council meeting.
Then I will close the council meeting.
Oh, because we don't have closed
Now
session.
we're going into,
We're board members now.
yes, we're board members now. So present tonight, I have Vice Chair Vice Chair McComber. Karn has been excused, Podeska, Porter, and Wilden, so we do have a quorum.
I don't even get my time.
Public hearing,
Oh, your title.
Board member, please.
board member Wilden, board member Porter, and board member Podeska.
This is a resume builder right here, so we need our official titles.
So we have a public hearing resolution approving fiscal year 2023, 2024.
Doug.
You know your title's double the
Grab
length
Doug.
of this meeting.
CRDA.
If you'll accept a motion.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that as a board member, we approve public hearing item 1 as stated on the agenda.
Okay, I have a first from board member Wilden
I'll second.
and a second from board member Podeska. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, was it opened up to public hearing?
already actually do the.
Oh, it is a public hearing.
Shoot.
Sorry.
That's what I was predicting.
I was just waiting.
I was missing.
Dang it, I'll rewind.
Okay.
meeting you have to
Anybody here for the public hearing? If so, I would be shocked.
All left when he started this meeting.
I know.
so-
Okay.
If only the chair knew
Annalise, would
order
you
of
like to
operations.
comment?
Come
Okay.
on, come on.
We need somebody. Okay, I will close the public hearing. I have a first and a second from some astute board members.
Doug, you made Doug walk all the way back in here for that, and now he's leaving again.
He's signing in to show that he's at the meeting.
Okay,
Mayor and council, the one thing that I do want to say is the CRDA is performing healthy.
The
We are-
CDRA or
the Community Development Renewal Agency, CDRA.
As you said, CRD. Just call.
Sorry, the change of vernacular. It is performing well. We anticipate that we're going to continue to meet our goals on this development agency as it continues to move forward. We did, we included any changes in the budget so that we could meet all of our financial obligations for next year, and we would recommend approval of the tentative budget.
okay. So I have a motion. Board member Porter,
I vote aye, Chair.
board member Wilden,
Aye.
board member Podeska,
Aye.
vice chair McComber.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Do I have to vote on the board?
Yeah, you
Oh,
vote. You're a board
well,
member.
Chair Jim, aye. Motion passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from a board member.
So made.
Second.
I have a first from board member Podeska and a second from vice chair McComber. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
You have to
Would-
vote.
I,
Oh, you did?
yeah,
Okay.
we're all good.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay.